these built-in habitual things that we've always done.
Hmm.
So you attract that person because you already know how you're going to respond to the person that's like, he's the protector. He's going to be loud and boisterous. I know I'm just going to be quiet and then I'm just going to go do whatever I need to do. But when you begin to grow, then you're learning something new and different.
Hmm.
And you want them to start acting new and different. And they're like, hold the phone. I did not sign up for that.
Welcome to Share.care, an all-inclusive community sharing experience, strength, and hope to create strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships. Share.care communities work toward every individual feeling safe, valued, and heard, free from the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Each episode, founder Damian Andrews explores the principles underpinning Share.care and invites expert special guests to share their knowledge so you can easily reap the benefits so many others experience. You hold the choice to create your future. Let it be with strong, healthy, and inspiring relationships.
Hello, Dr. Carolyn. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. Damien, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. For the listeners and viewers, we've just had probably one of the longest pre-show discussions. We've been having lots of fun and talking about different things that we're going to talk about and the different things that we're doing. And we've got exciting things coming out as well. So we're looking forward to sharing those with you. But we were talking about, compatibility and because we were having a big discussion about relationships and how relationships work, and we decided to share and have a discussion about compatibility, because and we were talking, and one of the things we did talk about was makeup sex, and it's like one of those things creates a wonderful chemistry between people. But I mean, there's some underlying probably character things that need to be addressed, and how do we, because we have an attraction to someone, and then we have this. I think most people have that experience where we have this really strong attraction, but then the person just drives them crazy at times as well, and you're wondering about your compatibility. What are your thoughts in there?
Yeah, well, the whole idea of compatibility, we could probably be compatible with a lot of people, but in various ways. There's
Mm.
work compatibility, there's friendship compatibility, there's a lot of relationships that we have, and there are certain aspects of compatibility. Now, I am by no means an expert on compatibility because I am twice divorced. So, just so you know. I'm not the best at it, but I keep on trying. And I keep learning about myself. And I think that's probably key to anyone's compatibility is knowing how you view what you view as being compatible and how does that person relate to you. So let's get into it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what you said there about um, learning what works for you, that's really critical, I think. I know from my experience, I mean, I probably put myself in the category of a serial monogamist. When you talk about two divorces, I haven't had two divorces, but I have had one. And so I've got some catching up there to do, I think, maybe.
No, no, no. Trust me, you don't want to be in that race. You do not want to be in that race.
But I've certainly had some long-term relationships that have not worked, and I wonder, from when I look at it, I'm certainly looking at, okay, what areas could I improve on? And I know part of that was being clear about what I want in a relationship, where I certainly accepted some behaviors from people. Now, if I look back, I probably wouldn't accept. That doesn't mean I'd jump up and down and say, hey, you can't treat me like that. It'd be just, you're not a person I want to associate with. Um, I'm wondering what are your thoughts on that? Is it a case where we really should have a good understanding of what it is that's important to ourselves first?
Absolutely. And I just thinking about my situation. I just got out of a long-term relationship. I consider myself a serial monogamist too. I will stay in a relationship. Sometimes, when I look back on it, it's like I stayed too long.
Mm.
The signs and the writing was on the wall, the signs were there, but I mean, maybe not a serial monogamist as much as a hopeless romantic.
I'll put myself in that category too.
Are they one and the same? So
Could be,
that needs to go on the list. We need to have those discussions as well at another time.
yeah.
But
Maybe
I
that's a book. We can write a book together, Confessions of a Serial Monogamist.
and a hopeless romantic. I love it. We got hundreds of books here. So, but I think for me, I've actually kind of figured out some of the behaviors where I brought some behaviors from my childhood
Mm,
into my adult relationships because
mm,
I'm still looking for that father figure, you
mm,
know, the daddy to take care of me and to make sure I'm secure and all of that. So, and I found myself, and those are the type of men that I attracted. Now
mm,
they were high on the protection and security and all that, and they were pretty low on everything else. So, but that's what I was vibrating. That's what I was looking for. Someone that was going to make sure that I'm protected and take care of me, and that's going to go to war for me and make sure that my honor is protected and all of that's who I was looking for.
mm,
And that's what I got. And like I said, it was like, well, look, I did my part. You're protected. Don't ask me for anything. It's like the other pieces that I then found out that I wanted
mm,
first. I didn't know how to express what I wanted.
mhm,
I didn't really have words for it. And so, and then when I no longer needed protection, when I was got to the point where I could protect myself, which means I was no longer as timid as I used to be, and I could verbalize my displeasure or my disappointment or anything like that. So I didn't necessarily need uh, a male figure to protect me in that way, but then I didn't have any way of showing him or telling him what else I needed.
mm,
And so it became one of those things where you're not doing this and you're not and you're not and you're and he's like, well, you never said I had to do all of that. You said you were vibing protection. So I'm here to protect you. I'm not here for the soft and the ooey gooey and the cuddlies and all of that stuff. I'm not here for that.
mm.
So that made it tough for me. I had to figure out how to verbalize what it is that I wanted.
Is that when we're looking at the compatibility? Because I'm thinking, and I've done a lot of study in that area of the Freudian thing where we're attracted to the opposite sex of the parent that we had, which is you're saying you had a similar experience. And I spoke to a number of counselors in that regard and psychologists just exploring that, going, what is that driver? And they've said that there was part of that. It's more about that familiarity. That's what you're used to. It's not
Hmm.
stepping aside. And if I've got this wrong, I'm not sure. I haven't read all of Freud's work, but
Right.
I don't necessarily, from what I understood, it wasn't about this sexual attraction. It was more about that's what you're used to, which is when we're talking about compatibility, where we want to be. I think from a psychological perspective, we want to be around that familiar because it's safer. Is that
It's safer.
yeah? Is
Hmm.
that how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I don't know that I necessarily, I don't think it's not a one-to-one thing, but you are looking for someone that feels comfortable to you,
Mm,
someone that you're accustomed to being around. Why? And here's my theory. The reason why we seek out that familiarity is because we don't have to learn anything new. We know how to
mhm,
respond to
mm,
that person. We know how to respond to that personality trait because
yeah.
we have these built in habitual things that we've always done.
Mhm,
So you attract that person because you already know how you're going to respond to the person that's like, he's the protector. He's going to be loud and boisterous. I know I'm just going to be quiet and then I'm just going to go do whatever I need to do. But when you begin to grow, then you're learning something new and different,
mhm.
and you want them to start acting new and different, and they're like, hold the phone. I did not sign up for that. And that's where the friction begins. Because if they're not open to you changing, as a matter of fact, my ex-husband told me, he's like, I haven't changed. You've changed. And I'm like, you're right. And I said, and I really don't think saying that you haven't changed is necessarily gold medal award winning type of response. You know,
I'd find it difficult to say that someone hasn't changed. I mean, yes, core fundamentals probably character may not, but as we grow and evolve, I find that
just
that
getting older
sounds like a
makes you
defensive
change.
mechanism there.
Yeah. Like, no, see, again, it's the fault finding. It's your fault. You did it. I ain't nothing changed with me. You did it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll take the blame for that, you know.
But is it
But yeah,
Isn't
go ahead.
that because when we're talking again compatibility, and I've had that experience where you meet someone and you're like, oh wow, you have this amazing. There's something that connects, and you feel this thing, and it's like, oh, this is really exciting. And then 6 months down the track, it's like this person's driving me insane. But it's the same person, and you probably neither of you have changed much. But is it? What's I'm just wondering what that is, what that initial attraction is. What do you think drives that? Where you meet that person, you go, and those sparks fly, and you're getting all these tingly sensations. But then all of a sudden, is it a lack of communication that causes the things to get a bit edgy
Well,
later on?
it depends. It really, I think it depends on the person, your level of desperation. Uh, it's a lot that goes into that, I think, because if you're if you haven't been in a relationship for a long time and you finally see somebody that does get your adrenaline pumping and gets you all hot and bothered and you're excited and you're crushing on this person, it's easy to look past all of the glaring red flags. He's just like your other dude. This is how you met your other dude. This.
Mm,
But I don't know what that is. It's the natural attraction of human beings. That's why we are constantly fighting aging and trying to look our best and smell our best and be on our best behavior and all of these things, because we are naturally wired to want to attract someone to us.
mhm.
But at the same time, we're not thinking about the long term. We're not thinking 6 months down the road. We're thinking 2, 3 weeks, a month, maybe just tonight. Who knows? You may not be like, I don't want to really be with nobody, but I really want to be with you right now. That kind of a thing. It's oh my gosh, this topic. Whew.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was wondering because I noticed looking at my some previous relationships I was in, and you'd have that spark of attraction, but then there was some certain traits, and some people, there was a certain type where I allowed myself to be treated in a way that wasn't really good. Let's just put it that way. and I would bend and move and do that. But then when I became aware of that, I started to know when I'd meet people, I'd notice up front, I'd feel that attraction. But then I would say this other part I'd become aware of the behaviors that were always there at the beginning, but I just didn't I either didn't pay attention to them or ignored them or whatever it was. So I was just wondering about that. Have you had that experience as well, where you start to become aware and go, hang on a minute, that's not you become behaviors that were always there, you just didn't chose to ignore them, is the word that I like to, or the words I like to use to describe it, because it wasn't like they weren't there. I just put them aside.
Yeah. Either you put them aside, not even really set them aside, but you convinced yourself. I know I convinced myself that
Mm.
those were traits that I could live with. They're not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. It's like it's okay. You know what? He doesn't wash dishes. It's all right. I can wash dishes. We got a dishwasher. So you're constantly setting those things aside. Oh, I can live with that. But the bigger question for me
Mm.
in my relationship is, why was I so ready to set those things aside when I know I didn't like them? Because if they were if I liked them or if I didn't have a problem with them, they wouldn't have shown up with the red flags and the glaring and all of, the full course band and all. It wouldn't have shown up that way.
Mm.
So it struck me emotionally, whatever that situation or circumstance was, that habit, that thing that they do, that just kind of, it hits you the wrong way. You don't like it. Your immediate response is, it makes you bristle. Like, I don't like that.
Mm.
But then right after you say, I don't like that, but you know what? He's so nice and he's so this, and this is the first time he's done, you start telling yourself this story
Yeah.
to get in. Maybe that's just a female thing because we have been raised to be polite.
No, I don't know.
And
And because we cross both areas, and I know from my side of things, I've done that same exactly what you're talking about, where I hadn't really thought about it to that level that you did, but it was just more, okay, they want this, so I'll help out, and I'll do this, and I'll help, and I'll do these things, and then I'm starting to get frustrated because I'm doing all these extra things that I probably didn't really want to be doing. I want to be that, that helper, that, and maybe it's a guy that the guy thing we want. You mentioned about the protector, so it's like, oh, you need help with that, I'll help with that, or you need that, and doing all these things, and and then it just keeps bending and bending, and finally it's like and you get frustrated
I've
and
had enough.
had enough.
Hmm.
But now instead of, I have an awareness of going, well, that's not something that I actually want. And this is coming back to that original part we're talking about, is being self-aware of what's right for you. Because I have friends who were very, very specific about what they wanted in a relationship. They actually worked through that and were very, very detailed about that, and realistic in the sense of it was character things that they were looking for, not, they're a certain body type or whatever, although there was a certain, attitude that they were looking for. So they wanted someone who cared about their health. But if, the body type, it wasn't, they had to be, 12 abs or whatever it was. And so I'm just wondering, is it, something that we, again, coming back, do we need to be clear about what it is that we want when we're looking for compatibility?
I would say yes, because um I've gone through this a lot with myself, because there's a certain physical features that I prefer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't discount the other features, but these are ones that I prefer. It's like, I prefer coffee with cream. You may prefer black coffee. I mean, it's a preference. I prefer blue. Your favorite color may be red.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever gets into wars about blue. Well, no, I take that back, because there are gangs with certain colors where there is a trouble with that. But
Yeah.
people that are living regular, everyday, 9 to 5 kind of lives don't go to war about you like blue or green or red or black or whatever.
Mm.
You just don't do that. But here we are, at the same time, we have difficulty saying what we prefer. I prefer tall men. I prefer women with big legs, or,
Mm.
those are physical features, but you also have to be cognizant and mindful of, like, I like people who have, they're go-getters. They want to do something in life. They're trying to achieve things. They're, those type of things. They have a certain attitude. They want to be physically fit. They enjoy being healthy. They enjoy going to festivals. So these are a list of preferences for the person that you want to be around,
Mm.
because it's very difficult to be in a relationship where you like going to festivals, they like watching movies. And it's like, when we're watching movies, we can't talk. Well, why do we need to talk? There's a problem. There's a problem there.
That's what ad breaks are for.
Because, yes, so I'm saying, these
Especially
are things
during
like,
sports.
right. It's like, and then sometimes it's like, it's halftime. I like sports.
Mm.
So I am very sports oriented. I will go to any type of sporting event that you want. I even got into lacrosse, and I still don't know how to play lacrosse, or not necessarily play it, but I don't even know the rules of it. I'm like, how do you win? How do you lose? When are you, when is the penalties? But
What? Whacking
I
someone
love,
with a stick is not legal?
yeah, right. It's like you can't hook them and make them fall down. That's a bad thing. Okay, all right. I don't know. So as we go through multiple relationships, and if you are human and you've lived any type of life, unless you married your high school sweetheart, you will have multiple relationships before you settle on one or two or five or 10, whatever. So as you go through these relationships, you begin to realize what you're attracted to, why you're attracted to this
Mm,
type of person, and then you have to unravel that part, the why. Why am
mm,
I attracted to this person? I'm attracted to this person because they remind me of my dad. They act like my dad. They treat me like my dad. And then you get mad because like, I don't want anybody to treat me like my dad because my dad was able to punish me. And all of these things. And it's like, no wonder I'm so upset with this person because he's taken on that father persona and we're
mm.
in a relationship.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I don't want a father persona, someone to say, well, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do this. This is that. Don't buy that. Go buy this. This is a better car. No, I don't need, I like this car, but that's not a good car. And they break down. I don't care. I have money to pay for all of those things. I want this car.
Yes.
Right. And that's one of the things that I'm learning about myself is how to really stand for what it is that I want for me.
How much do you think
And
that compatibility is to do with? Because what you're talking about there, I love that you went there. Is because when we talk about loving someone, they say love someone for who they are. But
Mhm.
I don't know, and I put myself in that category too. Anyone that's got in a relationship and said, I love that person for who they are, it's usually like going, you could do this better, or you could, and there's always these improvements. Where is that line?
Good question. Um, Loving them for who they are, accepting them as they come in the
Mm,
door.
mhm,
And I think that's what we do when we're crushing. We're not looking at all of these other things and flaws or whatever we start calling them way down the line. We're not looking at that at the beginning. We're just enthralled because of the way they make you feel when you
mm.
see them,
Yeah.
you know? And but at the same time, it's like if you like the way they look and that's the thing that then you want them to stay in that way,
Mm,
you know, because you want to continue to have that feeling.
mhm,
And so, oh, it's so tricky. It's it's so very tricky because it's very nuanced because
mm,
it's not fully the physical, it's not fully the emotional or the intellectual or anything like that. It's a combination of those things. And as you go along in your relationship and those things start to tease out,
mm.
you begin to see, was I faking it and drew them, or were they faking it and drew me? So,
Yeah.
where's the lie, I think, or where is the deception? It's not quite a lie, it's more like a deception. So,
Yeah.
where's the deception? How much of it am I willing to accept, knowing it's a deception?
Mm,
And then what can we do to work past it? And I think that's where the little nitpicky flaws come in, where you start nitpicking things because you're not the person that I thought you were. You presented a
mm,
certain way, and now what you presented is falling apart. It's a facade. And I'm upset. I want you to be the way you said you were. You said you were a go getter. I
mm.
want you to be a go getter.
Yeah.
And you said you were doing this thing and that thing, and I expect you to do that.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. I don't. You're asking really hard questions, Damien.
Because I'm just wondering, I'm putting that together with the communication and that's my psychological issues that I had from my mother, who always talked about, communication is really important in a relationship. And I'm wondering, because I'm thinking about a particular relationship that I was in, and we're talking about those compatibilities and things you like and what adjusts and what doesn't adjust. And
Uh-huh.
I, again, when I was brought up, I had to have everything really organized. And when I joined the military, I could make my bed to military standards because that's what my mum had taught me and I had to do before I could go out and play. And I couldn't fake it because she'd come and inspect it. And if it wasn't right, I'd have to redo it. Do I have issues? Probably. So,
Just a little bit.
but I was in a relationship with someone who was the opposite. And so I would always make my wardrobe, everything was folded neatly in its spot. And I hated, if I want to get some clothes, I'll put something, if I want to wear something, to have to search for it. So I had everything where I could just go and, I know it's there, I go and grab it, put it on.
Right.
She was the opposite, and crap was everywhere. But we had a system whereby that was her part and this was my part. And it didn't, and I kind of, when I was looking at it, I would get frustrated because I'm like, why can't you organize that? And I get frustrated because then when she was looking for something, she could never find it. And then I, from that, went, well, if you love someone, love them for who they are. So I'm going to take the approach that this is how she is, as long as it doesn't interfere with my ability to do things that I need to do, then I can accept that, and I put that aside. That part worked quite well. It was okay. It was, and if I knew we were going out and she might be late, well, then I'd have something that I could do that was going to be productive for me. So in that time I'm waiting, it's like,
So you didn't hyper focus on her being late?
no, and it became I found something to do, and also too, I didn't take responsibility that you can't find your stuff. It was like, I can't find this. Oh, you can't find that. That's okay. I'll wait. And it was,
Yeah, like, okay, whenever you find it, let me know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or wear something else. It's
Can I just can I just jump in here real quick because
yeah.
that has really kind of brought something to the fore for me,
Mm.
and it's one of those things where it's a learned sometimes it's a learned behavior
It was for
to
me. It
el-
wasn't something I
to
did early on.
yeah, to elicit a response from the other person to get what it is that you're trying to get at as a
Mm.
person, as a human being.
Mm.
So you you feign inability to get organized because you always want somebody to help you because at some point in your life you felt like you didn't get enough help.
Mhm.
And so now, as a way to always make sure you get help, you are, oh my gosh, I can't. Oh, do you know where? Can you help me find? Do you know? Can you do this for? And so it's that way, and it's a control thing too. It's a way
Mm.
that you can control your situation and how people are going to respond to you because you can control that. And I'm pretty sure she wasn't very pleased when you said, "Okay, well, I'll wait until you find it," or maybe she just went, "Well, wait a minute, where you last put it?" and start, looking for someone to just organize her and pull her together
Mm.
and stuff like that. So yeah, that sometimes our behaviors
Mm.
and I'll speak for me. My behavior is I'm trying to elicit a response without verbalizing what it is that I
Mm.
want. I want them to catch it. I want them to figure it out that this is
Mm.
what I need. Now, 80% of the time, maybe even 85% of the time, that tact didn't work.
Mm.
And so I was left being incredibly frustrated that I didn't get what I wanted because
Mm.
the other person just was not inclined to figure out they just wasn't ready to go there. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to guess. Either you tell me what it is that you want from me or you don't worry about getting it. And
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's very frustrating. So that could be one of the things where but you were okay with saying, "I can live with that as long as," but you had that caveat in there, so don't think I didn't hear the caveat. I'm good with her being as long as it doesn't interfere with my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There was that
Like,
balance.
I need
Well,
my
I mean,
military
it wasn't
corners.
hard and rigid, but it was certainly, there was a balance there where I was going, okay, again, that's why I was coming and wanting to explore that, how, when you say you love someone, you love them for who they are. And that was a transition because initially in the start of that relationship, I was come on, can't you just organize this a little bit better? And this is, and I was getting
Be more
frustrated.
like me. Be
Yeah,
more like me.
exactly. Well, we do that, don't we, in a relationship?
Yes,
We
we
want the
do.
other person to be
Be
more,
more like me.
and that
Be
wasn't
more time
originally
like
about,
me.
yeah.
I'm the time Nazi. I'm the over planner. I am the time Nazi. I am the person that is like, look, the movie starts in 25 minutes. We got to drive for 15, then we got to walk for 5, and then we got to get into our seats, and then we got to get popcorn for 3. We're going to be late. We're going to be late. That was me. And but my ex was the kind of person where it's like, if we are running there just as the last trailer goes black and finding our seats, we're good. We made it. So his payoff was making it. My payoff was having a leisurely stroll and sitting around and getting situated before the lights go dark. So we had different ideas about how to accomplish the same task. And it was because I was a really bad time Nazi, really bad. It was bad,
Is part of that
bad.
compatibility, though, and because I've wondered this about exploring things that are outside of what we know, and because I played with that as well in some relationships where it was something that would frustrate me, and then I went, well, especially visiting, people that you don't want to visit. Let's just put it that way.
Mhm, mhm,
And then
mhm.
I had that, and I can't take credit for it. It was in a Wayne Dyer tape that I'd listened to. He talked about what if Uncle Bob, you actually had a conversation and listened to what was going on. So I had that approach, and I went, well, things are frustrating me. What if I put myself in the shoes of what can I find about this that I can make work for me? And I started to have
Right.
that approach, and I started to learn some things. I'd learned that I still didn't like it and didn't want it.
At least you gave it a shot.
So I mean, is that part of this compatibility where we start maybe with a high level of things that these are must-haves, and hopefully I would think they'd be in the character side of things. Like I like to be with someone who cares for their health as opposed to someone that has certain abs or whatever it is,
Mhm.
because people over time they're going to change. And then from there, the other stuff becomes, well, maybe there's things that you could learn. Is that how we could approach it, do you think?
Absolutely, because there's always everything has is an opportunity to learn something about yourself as well as about the other person. You have to be willing to be open-minded. And that can even be kind of cliche being open-minded. It's like you have to be willing to explore and be curious
Mm,
about what's happening with the other person, or how is it that um, that person has come to have this trait or behavior, and do it in a way that opens them up versus causing them to be defensive
mm,
and feeling like they have to defend how they present in the world.
yeah.
So instead of saying, "Why do you do that?" You may want to say, "It's like that is
My questions are
fascinating to
not
me."
so good.
Yeah, anytime you start with why, instant walls go up. Like, we not going here. We're not doing this. We not you're not gonna jump on me like that. Because
Yeah.
when you say why, it is very judgmental and critical.
Mm.
So
Especially
it's
when why
like,
do you? Those three.
yeah, well, yeah. Now let's just add a finger, and then you got instant defense mechanism right there.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I find that fascinating. I
Mm,
have never seen that done that way before.
mm,
How is it that you came to figure that out? Or how is it that you came to do it that way?
mm,
That gives the other person an opportunity to open up to you and share with you something that you find fascinating about their life. They don't have to necessarily know that it is rubbing you the wrong way and you're really upset about it and you wish they would just change and do it like you did. So, and I'm going to give you a case in point.
mhm,
My son Benjamin, he's 22 now, but he was diagnosed with high functioning autism.
mhm,
So he's very bright. He went through all general education classes. He got a scholarship for college.
mm,
So he does really well, but he is such a straight shooter And his perspective and how he interprets what he hears, especially from like his mother, from me, and from other people, is completely, there's no nuance, there's no reading between the lines with him.
Mm.
What you say is what he is going to deliver.
Mm.
And that has taught me, really has opened me up to how people hear what it is that I'm saying
Mm.
and how they interpret it and then play out what it is that they think I want from them.
Mm.
And so that's why for me, it may be a little bit easier for me to say, wow, that's fascinating.
Mm.
How is it that you came? Because my son had this way of doing math.
Mhm.
So most of us learn our times table, it's rote memory. It's like, you 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 2 is 14, and you learn it that way, or you count on your fingers.
Mm.
So my son had a way where he did the finger counting, but he didn't do it like I guess most people would.
Mhm.
So I would say, Benjamin, what is 8 times 3?
Mhm.
And he would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 24.
Mm.
I was blown away. Even his math teacher she was like, "Have you seen him do math?" I'm like, "Yes." What is that about? She said, I can't figure it out. I don't know how he does it, but he is fantastic with it. How do you count 8 3 times and come up with 24 without going 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18? He just said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 24, Mom. I'm like, so with that fascination, and that's from the time he was like in the fourth or fifth grade.
Mhm.
So all the remainder of his life, I spent my time being fascinated about how do you do that? He's like,
Mhm.
I don't, some things he was like, I don't know. It just comes to me. I see the number in my head when I do that, and or something like that. But it worked.
Mm.
It was spot on every time, no matter the number.
Yeah.
7 times 7, 8 times 9, 10 times 2, whatever. Spot on every time.
Wow. But is
Yeah.
that approach, as you say, asking, that's fascinating because we get with the compatibility side of things, and when the compatibility goes away, is where I'm leading to.
Not so fascinated.
Exactly. But that's what I'm,
When
I'm exploring. There was obviously that attraction to start with. We've had that attraction, and if we haven't set it up well to start with, then, and as you said, some of us are faking it, and we're pretending where we like something when we really don't, and we're hoping that it changes, and that's, we're kind of deluding ourselves there. So, but let's put that aside.
Okay.
Put that in that category of, let's get clear about what it is we want first. So we've got clear about what we want, and now we're with a person, and obviously as we're getting to know them, there's going to be parts that we don't have awareness of. And as
Okay.
we become aware of it, that can cause some compatibility issues. And using that clothing example that I mentioned before, it's okay. Is it something that you know, and I don't like the word compromise, because I don't think it's a compromise situation. It's going, okay, how do we do this in a way that works together for both?
For both of us, yes.
Yeah. So how do we, what have you had? I'm looking for, how do we communicate that? Because when we're talking about that communication style, I know from my experience, I've certainly learned to listen more, to ask more questions, and not why questions, and then state, this is what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing this in this situation, and
Mhm.
having that conversation that way. Is it do we need those skills of being able to have those communications to keep that compatibility alive?
Yes, 100%. And it comes and it we grow into ourselves as much as we grow in our relationships.
Hmm.
And what I like to work with when I work with my clients is really dismantling all the things that why are you doing this? Because a lot of things we do without thinking about why we're doing it or thinking about how it has come to be a fixture in our lives. It's
Mm,
like rote memory. We just do it. It's a learned behavior, and it's a behavior that we do. But when we slow ourselves down and really consider it,
mhm,
I'm doing this thing for what reason? See, you notice I didn't say why. It said, for
mm.
what reason
Well,
am I doing this thing?
yeah. But is that a struggle? I mean, because as you say, didn't say why, but I mean, because I know from my experience, it was one of those things I had to really pay attention to and look at how I was communicating and 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 listen and restructure what I was saying. And
Hmm.
like everything, we're creatures of habit, and we can change them quickly if we want to, and that's part of. But a lot of times we don't, uh, and it became something of that awareness for me. It was an awareness, okay, I need to deal with this situation differently. And rather than rushing in with, because when we're upset, we rush in. So it's better to step back a little bit.
Right.
Think about it and go, how can I word this? And then I'd word it. And rather than trying to push my opinion across, it became, okay, I'll put that across and see what I'm getting back. And maybe I need to adjust my communication. That's where I'm wondering from that compatibility, again, is it that communication that can keep that original spark alive?
I think so. I because when you think about it, all the things that we've talked about so far is we've kept, no matter what the conversation was so far this evening, in the compatibility, we've come back to communication. It's
Mm,
like being able to share with the person that you're giddy and crushing on. So clearly there's something there.
mm,
Sustaining that and keeping that alive, I think, is part of the compatibility. And as you start hanging out a little bit more, and then you're becoming curious, or you find something that just like rubs you the wrong way,
mhm,
and it's like, you have to begin to share some things with that person. Take a beat, not just give in, because it's like, oh well, I'll just go ahead and help, or oh well, I'll just go ahead and say this, because I'm the kind of person, I'm an activator, so it's like I see something, I got a process for it, I can figure it out. This is what you need to do to make it do right, blah blah blah, 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 and that's me. And that has been the most difficult thing for me to pull back on,
mm,
because it's so natural for me to like, oh, I see what the problem is. Let
mhm,
me just share with you how you can make this, do what you need it to do. And it's like, but they didn't ask you for that.
mm.
Why do you find it necessary to tell someone something that they didn't ask you for that? It actually saves me a lot of time, because I don't get into a lot of conversations that way. I'm learning to go, oh, really?
Mm.
And you in compatibility and in communication, when you're being drawn, and then when you're giving.
Yeah.
And I'm learning to figure out when I feel like I'm being drawn, like
Yeah.
people are trying to draw me into their situation, their circumstance, because the activator in me can definitely help,
Mhm.
but I'm learning to say, that's not for you. That's not yours. That's not yours.
I'm laughing
And
because I pretty much I think there was a period in my life where I would have been the world champ in giving unsolicited advice. It's like, here's
yeah,
how this can help you. It's like,
like, but did it? And the question, I'm
and a lot of
sure, in
times
their
even when
faces, right, in their faces and in their mind. But did I ask you? Did anybody hear me ask him for any, or ask her for anything? And yet here she is giving me all of this, blow by blow, 10-point checklist, 5 bullet points, all of this stuff unnecessarily.
yeah.
That's not yours.
And that's
You
again
know.
when that's why I was looking at the compatibility in a relationship. There's a lot of times where, and we're talking a bit about that in the pre-show, where with someone who's telling, oh, I'll do this, or this is not the right, thing for you, or you want this, but that's not a good thing. And it's like, but I like it. I
Right.
remember, and that's where I think the day I became, because they say a boy doesn't become a man until his father dies. And my dad died for me. He's still alive, but metaphorically. He
Hmm.
died for me over a packet of chips. I was staying at my dad's house, I was in between how I bought a house, sold a house, and needed a place to stay. I was staying at my dad's house, and my dad's pretty frugal, so he buys those no-name brand. I don't know if you have them in the States, but the plain brand things, because he's quite frugal. And I was eating the chips that pop. Once you pop, you can't stop. I'm giving the branding away. I was eating some Pringles.
Right.
And my dad walked into the kitchen, and he looked at me and goes, "What are you eating those for? They're expensive." Now, I didn't justify. I didn't explain. I did explain, but I didn't, get into a reason. I didn't get defensive. I just said, I like them. Very calmly, I like them. No reason, no rationale, just I like them. And it was just very plain. And he goes, "Yeah, but they're expensive." And I said, "Yeah, but I like them." And that was
But I
it.
like them.
And he nodded. And I remember that interaction so well. And he went, it was almost to said, "Okay, you're an adult now." And our relationship changed from that point. And that's where I was wondering, is it a case of, that self-awareness where we need to look at that and we be comfortable in ourself to be in a situation that we like ourselves enough to go, I'm comfortable with that. Whatever's happening around here, I'm comfortable with the other person being their own person, is where I was coming to with that.
Yes. And I'm comfortable with me being my own person in this
Mm.
situation. And it's like, you do you.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do, okay. I'm not going to participate in that,
Mm.
but you have fun. Do what you want to do. Do you? I'm gonna be over here eating my Pringles
Well,
in my card that I want.
because I have that. I mean, I'm still mentally 12 years old, and because I like Lego, and I have huge Lego collections. And I was with someone who was, I wanted to build my Lego, and she wanted to spend time with me, so she decided, I'll come and help you build Lego, and so she was helping me find parts, and we're doing that together. And at first, I was a little bit uncomfortable because it's my Lego. Take it away.
That's a 12-year-old you coming out. No, don't touch my stuff.
Exactly, it's my toy. But then I went, hang on a minute. This is about connecting, and okay, so and we connected, and we were talking in the pre-show about makeup sex. Well, it wasn't makeup sex, but it was really nice.
But it was pretty nice, yeah. It was like, because there was another connection.
Yeah.
There was another thing that you could now bond with that person over. Where you're not keeping them out of your life, you're actually incorporating them into your life. And that's another part of being compatible.
Yeah.
And maybe like going someplace where the other person wants to go. It's like, "Oh, I want to go to this festival." I'm not a festival person. But here's a caveat.
Mm.
Going to the festival and then immersing yourself in the festival, much like she immersed herself in the Legos, right? Like, I want to be with you, so I'm going to immerse myself in what it is that you like so that I can spend time with you, because this is obviously a happy place for you.
Yeah.
So instead of going to the festival with me just to say you're with me
And
and
then
ruining it for me because
yeah.
you're complaining and why you got to look at that, and can we go now? We saw 3 of those back there, and that kind of thing.
There's a
So
person
you're not
that looks very much like me, but has more hair, that did that.
really.
Yes.
Were you that person?
Wasn't me. Was just, it looked
Wasn't you?
almost identical, just had more hair.
Okay. You're a doppelganger.
It was a long
Okay,
time
we're gonna
ago.
Yeah.
I remember
It's
seeing
like,
the photo.
and hearing the story of
Exactly.
that person doing that. And I mean, and when you think about it, that in and of itself is like, I don't care enough about you to
Yeah.
immerse myself in something that you like and love, and and the goal being to be with you,
That's what I'm getting at with the
regardless of what it
compatibility.
is. Yeah.
It's
If
immerse
you want
yourself in
to
other.
be with that person, is you want to immerse yourself in the things that makes that person tick, makes them happy, gives them joy. Because at that point, you're learning value, getting valuable insights.
Mm.
It's like, oh my gosh, she really likes this book, or she likes book festivals, or she likes the atmosphere of this. So, although that's not my thing, I
Yeah.
could definitely use it to my advantage.
I was with someone who specialized in tax and did a 10,000 word essay on tax law and asked me to read it.
Now
I read
that
some of it, if I'm going to be honest, but
it's like it's tax law. I'm going to get lost in it, but I will do my best.
I tried. But where
I
and
will.
where does that when we've got that immersive in the other person's experience? Because then I want to take that a step further, where I've had
Huh?
people that like stuff which you're not interested in, you've gone and done it, but then they constantly want you to go there, and it's like, well, I don't. I'm happy for you to go. You like it, and sometimes I'll come with you, but I don't want to go every time because it's not my thing. But
Yeah.
how does I mean I've had that experience where a person has said, oh, you're not coming with me to these events. You don't care about me, and it's like, well, it's not that I don't care about you. I appreciate that, and I've gone to events and I've enjoyed it, and it hasn't been my thing, and I'm not getting that buzz out of it. I'm
Mhm.
enjoying this time with you, so I don't want to do it every week. It's like,
Right, right.
I'll come.
And
Where's that line?
well, that because it's like, wait now, let's not equate the
Mm.
festival to you.
Uh,
I enjoy being with you,
mm,
but I don't necessarily enjoy the festival unless you're there. And I don't want to go all the time. It's just not something that I want to do. Just like, and you can make a comparison. It's like, would you want to do Legos every weekend? Pretty sure you wouldn't
mm,
because that's just not your thing. I understand that you're sharing in an experience with me.
mm,
I don't need to have that experience every week. I'm not going to the flea market every week. I'm not going to an estate sale every week with you. I know you enjoy that, but I'm not going. I
mm.
love you. Here's some money. Have fun. Send pictures of the stuff you find. I'm not going. I'm going to be over here watching the lacrosse game, eating my Pringles. Thank you. So, and that's when you have to have that conversation. You're like, don't equate a festival to you. Nothing can compare to you. A festival is nothing compared to you.
I
That's
like
why I
that
don't need to go
distinction
to
you
the
said.
festival.
The festival is not you. This is,
Right.
I like you. I like things, and I like sharing with you. I'm not enjoying, well, you got to be careful. Say I'm not enjoying things. Well, what do you mean you're not enjoying
Well,
it?
I don't need to go to the festival
Mm,
to enjoy time with you.
yeah.
You have friends that you can do that with.
Mm,
We don't need, and I will go occasionally, because occasionally there's something that may pique your interest about a fest. If you're a motorcycle enthusiast, then you can say, I got a festival for us. It's a
mm,
motorcycle festival. Let's go do that. That's a festival.
yeah.
They're going to have vendors there. You can see some other things besides motorbikes, but
Mm,
it's motorbikes.
I like.
So find something that is a combination of a festival for something that a Lego festival. Like
Mm,
let's go to Lego Fest.
mm,
There's a Lego town. There's a theme park that's
yeah.
all Legos.
Lego Land or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Legoland. Legoland. That's what it
Mm,
is.
yeah.
So it's like let's go do Legoland. They have a whole bunch of other vendors. You can get that vendor experience, and I can go see Legos.
Yeah.
Win win. You know. But you going to an estate sale every weekend, the first one was really great.
Hmm.
I don't feel like I need to go to one every week in order to feel that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you talk about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and with that compatibility side of things as well, in doing things together. I mean, often
Uh-huh.
when you first meet someone, you have all this rush of emotions, and you want to, and you're going, you want to be there and be with them all the time, and they want to be with you all the time, and then sometimes, how do you keep that in perspective so that you don't get lost in each other and lose your own identity?
Well, I don't have that. I didn't have that issue. I've always wanted people to just go away. Just I'm
Make up
I'm an
sex and then go away.
yeah, I'm an introvert. Primarily, I'm an introvert.
Mm,
But, I was married to a person that was in the military, the US Army,
mm,
and periodically they would have to do like a field exercise where they will go away for a couple of weeks.
mhm,
And I found that everything was so much more exciting when they came back. So it
mm,
was like we would always have this like mini honeymoon type of phase when they would go away for a few weeks and then come back. I
Yeah.
mean, so much so it got to the point where I'm like, look, I'm not feeling you right now. I'm going to need you to go away for a few weeks so I can still know that I love you, because right now I'm not feeling, we've been together too long, you know. And so, and that would be like at the like 90-day, 6-month mark. Was like, you don't have to go to the field. They don't have no field exercises that you can go do. Can you volunteer to go do something? I need you to go away. Yeah. And it became a running joke, but I was incredibly serious about that.
Yeah.
I just, I love being with people, but I also need time away. And I think that's probably why I do very well with long distance relationships, because I simply need time away. I need to, it's
Mm.
like an instant spark. You don't see a person for a month, 6 weeks. When they show up, it's real good. It's real good. But then, but also with long distance relationship, you really don't get to know a person when you're that far away. You can, because if you're having conversations on the phone or whatever, you can get to know them a little bit better. But yeah, I do really well with long distance relationships,
Yeah.
which is probably why I'm not in one right now.
You're having a very long distance relationship.
I'm having a very long distance relationship, so with someone who has heretofore yet to be identified. So, but that's part of it, is like, you don't want to lose yourself, and sometimes it can be difficult to stay an individual,
Mm,
because you do want to, you want that person to know that you're there for them and you're doing extra stuff, so
mm,
that they know that I'm here for you. I got you. Oh, you need that done? Okay, I can help with that. Or you need that. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. And then after a while, it's like, wait, now I feel like I'm doing a whole lot that I hadn't planned on doing.
mm.
And then you have to start pulling back, and then they're like, well, you used to do this for me. It's like, yeah, but I'm not doing that anymore.
Well, that's
So then,
that's the compatibility I was wondering about, because you used to do that for me, because at the start too, you do a lot of things that you probably. And this is why I'm wondering, from that setup at the start of a relationship, whether you're clear about what are the boundaries that you're setting, because
oh,
I know.
I'm very clear.
Yeah, I was the
I'm
opposite.
very
I would bend way too far, and then I'd start to go, this is really getting frustrating, and
And
and that was me. I'd take that
I
on
would
board.
tell, yeah, and I tell people, whether it's a friend or whether it's we're trying to establish a relationship, I would say, and I say,
Mm.
don't do anything that you're not willing to continue long term, because I
Mm.
spoil very easily.
Ah.
That is my going phrase. It's like, look, don't start sending flowers here every day. If you're not willing to keep that up and you can't handle that expense, don't be sending no packages and something from Amazon today, and the delivery truck showing up every day, every week. Don't do that. Don't do
Mm.
that, because I spoil. Then I have an expectation that this
Mm.
is going to continue, and then when it stops, I'm upset. What happened? You suddenly stopped doing. We were I was getting tulips and carnations and roses and all of these wonderful flowers and everything, and now all of a sudden it stopped. Who you seeing? Who else you giving this to? I got questions. I got questions.
I love that.
So, I mean, there are some things that I really, you really can say up front, because the relationship, this whatever it is that you're building, is so new. It's so much easier to be honest up front.
Mhm.
And yet, it took me all of these years to figure that out,
Mm.
because I was bending over backwards and I was cooking and I was, trying to be Susie homemaker and all of this stuff. Let me cook dinner for you and let me do this for you. And I'm like, this is not me. Who is this person?
Mm.
But it's the things you were taught as a child. A way to a man's heart is through his stomach. So I'm like, and he
Ex-
don't even like this stuff. Yeah.
Too high.
Yeah. It's like, nah, now it's like, hey,
Pastors say that. He said, that whole adage of weight a man's stomach is through his stomach is wrong. It's 6 inches too high. So
yeah, there you go. It's like, you really want to get to his heart, you need to aim lower.
But it is that, and that's why I'm wondering again with this compatibility, how much of it does rest on us being clear about what it is that is worked for us, and just being upfront with that. Are we scared to say that because maybe we won't find a
No,
relationship?
well, we're scared to say it because it might run that person off, and you really like them. That's what it is. It's like,
Wouldn't you want to
I
know? This is what I'm trying to understand. You'd want to know that, I'm asking not as this perfect person hasn't done that. I've done exactly that thing, so I'm just promoting the discussion.
yeah. I mean, it's like we want people to like us. We want
Mm,
people to like us, and we want them to like us as much as we feel like we like them. And in order to do that, we start putting on airs and acting a certain way and picking up on things that are being said because people will tell you what it is that they want from you.
mm,
You know, it's like, I want some water. Now, there are two ways to answer that question, there are actually three ways.
mm,
It's like, I want some water. One, you can get up. You want ice? You want a big glass or a little glass? Then you start doing things to go get them the water
mhm,
to show them that I hear you and I want to help you get what you need. Or you can ignore it because that could be a rhetorical question. He could be thinking out loud. That is not your conversation.
mhm.
Or you could be like, oh, well, if you go into the kitchen, I'd like water too, if you're going.
Yeah, I like that answer.
Yeah. So, since you brought it up, go get two glasses for
Yeah,
both of us,
yeah.
right? So, how do you play that? And what is that other person trying to elicit from you?
Mm,
If I say this, will she do it? So
mhm.
then they know that she's listening. She like my mama. Anytime my mama heard me say something, she was right there on it. She was on top of it, like, Ma, I'm hungry. Okay, let me go fry up some food for you. Let me go get you something to eat. You wouldn't need me to order something for you? I got it. What? It's like, oh, she like
That
my
wasn't my
mama.
mum.
Right. Well, that was a
There's
lot
the
of
fridge.
my
There's the pans.
right. Bread is in the cabinet.
Yeah,
Meat is in the fridge.
yeah.
We don't have no mayonnaise, so if you want mayonnaise, you need to go to the store and get it, right? So that's the thing. So it's a dance.
Mm,
It's a dance, and it's like they're putting stuff out, and you're going to either catch the vibe or
mhm.
you're not going to catch the vibe.
Yeah.
I'm now at the point where I'm like, I have three options with this,
Mm.
but there's also a fourth option is to ask them directly. Are you talking to me? Because you just kind of said that randomly. We're
Yeah.
both sitting here. Are you speaking to me? Are you asking me a question? Or like I said, to completely ignore it because someone saying, I want some water is not directed at you.
Yeah.
It's not directed at you. Why do you feel like you have to respond to that? That's not yours.
You could respond to it with you ask the question, you want some water? It's like, oh, okay. Are you thirsty? Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
I'm enjoying the taste
Again,
though. But like I said,
right.
if you're getting something, I'll have
If,
some too.
if you're going that way, if you're
But
going that
again,
way,
I think we're coming back to that whole compatibility or maintaining that compatibility again. Is that communication and doing it in a way that it fosters growth within the relationship. If
yes.
that probably sounds cliche, but cliches are
No, it does, but it does because it helps the other person. Either they're going to get frustrated with you because you're not picking up what they're putting down,
mm,
or they're going to be like, okay, I
mm.
like her because she's not going to put up with my mess. So you're either going to draw them, or you're going to repel them, or you're going to make them curious. Which is the three. I need to write that down. There is a three-step process for everything.
Yeah.
So there's the three-step process is that he's not. this conversation is not directed at me.
Mm-hmm.
You can become curious about the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
or you can react or respond to what's being said.
Yeah.
So it's a three-part process that everybody can apply to any conversation that you're having
Mm-hmm.
to really flesh out what's really the dynamic of this conversation,
I like that.
and where do I play in this conversation.
I like that terminology you're talking about, fleshing out, and I think there's a certain level of emotional maturity that a person needs to be at where you're not taking things defensively to start with.
Hmm.
And then from that framework or that foundation, you can actually then start exploring, what is it are they saying? What is it that they want? And then when you've got an understanding of what that is, then you're in a position to then make an informed decision as to how you're going to respond to that.
Hmm.
Are you going to get the drink, or are you going to say, go get it yourself, or bring me one, or whatever it might be? But
Right.
then you've got a way of doing that. But
Hmm.
and I wonder, you mentioned about people like a bit of that pushback, but I think people generally do like boundaries. Not having boundaries something to push against. It's kind of like going to the gym and not having any weights. You
Right.
don't get a burn from it. You don't get any satisfaction. It's like it's like, woohoo! But when you
Like, this
get
is
a bit of
easy.
pushback and going, okay, but that pushback causes growth, is what I'm getting to. It's again similar to going to gym. You lift up heavy weights, your muscle grows in a relationship. If you're exploring where the boundaries are in a growth minded way, that's going to
Hmm.
develop that, and then
Yeah.
you might have that great sex without makeup sex, or without the argument. You might have that. So,
Right. You just have the great sex. You can skip all the preliminaries. You
yeah, more efficient, and you probably get more of
definitely. Definitely.
it.
Definitely. So I mean, yeah, I mean that is that one was kind of revelatory for me
Mm,
to realize that you got that three-step process, and then at the same, and also the boundaries. Like when they are saying things, they're trying to figure out where the breaches are, where are the weaknesses in this person.
mm,
What can I not necessarily exploit,
mm,
but what can I use that will not require me to grow necessarily
mm.
or change how I operate? What places can I figure out that this person responds like everybody else in my life has responded to me in this particular situation?
Yeah. Because when we're talking about compatibility, and again, I'm going to quote my mum here, is she would say men and women are different, and obviously, you apply men and women to, if you're same gender relationship, there's always a masculine and a feminine. So
Hmm.
the people listening can apply it that way. Um, but she would say men and women are different. They have different strengths, but by coming together, they become more than the sum of the parts. And
Synergy.
is that what we're talking about here with compatibility as well? It's having a clear understanding of what it is, who you are, and what it is that you want. And then from that compatibility, it's going, oh well, okay, we mesh like this, but we actually fit together. Yeah, there's
Hmm.
some things that we need to understand and grow, and you're always learning. But we fit together. But by fitting together, we're actually able to do more. And I know the research shows that certainly for men in a happy relationship, I'm going to qualify it that way, but that's how it was qualified. In men in happy marriages was the thing, was they actually live longer, earn more money, and have more sex. Now, I think those are three things that all men would like more of.
Win, win, win.
Yeah. So, but the reason they do that is because of what the feminine brings to the relationship, um, and similar sort of thing for women. It was they actually have lower stress, get more sleep, and what was the third one? I can't remember, but there was
Have
a
more sex.
yeah. Yes.
I'm just
Well,
guessing.
well, maybe the category is they want to have more sex rather than.
There it is. That's where that compatibility comes in. He
Yeah.
gets more, she wants more. Win win.
Well, I mean, there is that dynamic, though. I've noticed in the relationships that I've had, where it's going well, where won't be doing anything, but she's like, "Hey, take me to bed," literally being said, and it's okay.
All right, here we
But
go.
it wasn't anything I did in that moment. It was all the other stuff that was beforehand that created that, again, that compatibility. And that's why I'm wondering, is it, when we're looking at compatibility, is it looking at what it is that works for us, understanding what are the bits that maybe you need a little bit of help with, and we could all, and through that you're actually going to become more. Is that part of the exploration that we need to have a look at in one of the books that
Yeah,
we're writing?
yeah, right. And and it becomes it's. Let me see. Let me try and make this where the way it's coming together in my brain, it doesn't necessarily have words right now, but uh, that ability, again, maybe that fascination with the differences that you are exploring about another person is just being fascinated. It was like, wow, you said this,
Mm,
I said this. Then it morphed into this whole other conversation, or some people get upset because if back to the water scenario, it's like, I
mm,
want water. You're accustomed to people just jumping up and getting you water, and I didn't do that. And now you're upset with me.
mm,
I'm fascinated by how it is that me simply not responding, asking you a question, or saying, if you're going that way, get me some water too. What about what I said upset you?
mm,
And that puts that person in a position to go, yeah, what is it about? You didn't say anything ugly, derogatory, or nasty. So
mm.
why am I so upset?
Yeah,
Let's talk about it.
yeah.
I mean, and all of this is
It's that.
in a utopia. We would probably have these. We might be able to have these conversations, I think.
But the thing is, the conversation that you're talking about, because and the willingness to have the conversation, and the part that I'm saying, what I'm highlighting here, and the willingness to have the conversation, I'm really saying the willingness to listen. And I know from my experience, where I've been in a situation where I would have done, a circumstance happened, and I'm not going to get into the detail what the circumstance was,
Hmm.
because there's different interpretations of that. But the circumstance happened, and I would have reacted a certain way, and I let the person know. We were driving in a car, and I said, I'm going to do this, and the person said to me, she explained, she goes, oh, don't do that, and we talked, and I listened, and I went, yeah, I can do something a little differently here.
Hmm.
And that was a growth for me. And that's where I was wondering, again, this whole point of listening and having that communication. We're talking about compatibility. Again, putting aside that, we are actually in a situation where we can identify who we're compatible with and not lying to ourselves, as we talked about at the start. But
Right.
then from there, enabling that compatibility to grow through that conversation, is that, how do we, how do we learn to listen more? Is what I'm getting to.
But once we quiet all the other little thoughts running through our heads, it would be it's a lot easier to listen. The slow you have we have to get to the point where we can slow our own thoughts down. And
Mm,
one of the things I say to my mastering midlife community is like, before you respond, take a beat, take a pause, take a deep
mm,
breath, let it out before you allow that triggered response to come forward. And it's a practice and continually practice kind of behavior,
mm,
because you're not always going to get it. Sometimes it's going to be out of your mouth before you can even take the breath. It's going to be so triggering for you.
mhm,
But the ability to take that breath, take that beat,
mhm,
and then think about what it is that you want to say. Quiet your mind.
mm,
And then, like, okay, let me think about what it is that I really want to say versus that triggered response, that automatic response that's flowing around in your head because you're constantly thinking it. It's a belief that you have about certain things. And that's usually where triggered responses come from. Those beliefs that are constantly running around, they're like embedded in your body and they're just running around and you're thinking about them all day. I believe in this, I don't believe in that, I don't think that's right, I think this is right, I don't feel like you should do this or you should do that, da, 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 da. And then as soon as somebody crosses one of those boundaries, before you know it, you're giving them the I don't think you should do that. Well, why not? I just don't think you should. You've never even thought about it. It's just one of the, I don't believe you should do that. And so that when you're able to take that breath, take that beat, slow your brain, then something else can come in that may be different or life altering even, if you simply allow it to come in. And that's another thing. And just one more story from my son, my wonderful son who has taught me so much. We were on our way home. My daughter was a cheerleader. They were very, very young. I think my son may have been, my daughter was 9, so my son maybe was like 7 because she was a cheerleader. And she had not done well in her gymnastics class. And I was beyond livid because I was driving across town. I'm paying extra for gymnastics, and she was not, you know, she was in one group and got demoted and everything. And I was just all upset. And I was just having a whole very loud conversation about why I was upset. The poor child was just being tortured. I really do owe her an apology. And my son is in the back seat. He's playing his game on the phone and he never looked up. He didn't try and get me. He's like, Mom. And I'm like, yes, Benjamin, because I was upset. He's like, well, I don't think anything is going to change with her and the way Ariel is acting because of the way something to the effect, the way you're yelling at her is not going to help her change. That was the gist of the conversation.
Yeah.
And at that point, I don't know, my brain was just open to hearing that because I was laser focused on you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And that filtered in. And I said, Benjamin, you are absolutely right. And at that moment, I stopped talking. I didn't say, let me just finish this. I stopped. I didn't say another word all the way home. I just ended it right then and there. It was, I at that moment, I'm like, and whoever your deity may be, I was like, that was the voice of the deity. That was the voice of God for me.
Yeah.
That was a voice from heaven. That was not a voice from my son. My son said it, but it was a voice that's saying, "It's what you're doing is not working. Stop it."
Is that part of that compatibility, using that example as well, where you said you stopped talking, is finding that compatibility more about stopping talking and actually more listening and asking questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when we're talking, we're not listening. We're expanding and espousing our beliefs and our thoughts and our ideas on this other person, but we're not allowing their thoughts, their ideas, what they believe to come to us in a way where it can be understood and appreciated. We want that from others, but we don't always give it to people.
I love that. I mean, we've covered a lot here and I know we had a very broad topic on compatibility with really, I don't think we had a direction either. We're just talking about being compatible.
But and I just thinking about it, communication, COM, compatibility, COM. So they're in there, they're intermingled, they're intertwined.
Yeah.
If you're not communicating, the compatibility level goes down. And that's just from having this conversation because it all comes back to how we communicate, what we're trying to get across to the other person, what we want that other person to understand about who we are, what we bring to the table, how we experience love in life, and what makes us happy, what makes us giddy, and what makes us angry and disappointed. And it's all about learning those pieces
Mm.
and being open to expressing your fascination with those pieces within that person. I
Yeah.
think that makes it awesome and
Mm.
fun.
Yeah, I love that. And it's that growth that we're talking about is having, you know, one, having a framework to start with as to who you are and what you want. So you've got an ability to find a compatibility. Then when you have that compatibility, have that communication style that's more about understanding and learning than it is about telling and directing. Is that?
Right. Because the more because I control, that's my jam. I love to be in control, but I realize that I can't but when you're in control or you're trying to control everything,
Hmm.
you're not having any fun because you have to be hyper vigilant. You got to be on top of things. You got to make sure that, wait, you need to do this is not doing, you need to do this. You just have to be on top of so much when you're trying to control, especially if you're trying to control another person.
Hmm.
And I am learning because I do have a challenge with wanting to be in control. I am learning to breathe and take that beat,
Hmm.
take that pause. No unsolicited advice, knowing when things being clear or clarifying if someone is speaking to you directly. Because
Hmm.
that's another thing is people do not speak directly. They just throw things out in the air and hope people catch it. And whoever catches it gets to do it.
There is that.
And say it again.
There is that component where people throw that out there and hope someone does it, or waiting for someone to do it, and then yeah. That's
Yeah.
part of, I
And
guess,
it's like,
our own self-responsibility of recognizing, hey, we're moving in this, I am this person, and this is my boundary. We talked about boundaries, and that's part of that
mhm,
compatibility. Going, this is my cog. My cog is this, and does your cog fit within that? And if it does, that's
if
good.
it's
If it's
yeah,
not, if it doesn't fit, if we're not the same mesh, not what the grade of cog is, then maybe this might not be there. And I guess that also comes back to two at the very start, recognizing that there's lots of people out there. I had that. I remember a while ago, and I was thinking about relationship and thinking, would someone like me? And go, well, there's a lot of people out there. I'm a nice guy.
mhm,
Some people might not like me, and that's fine. And you're not supposed to be pleasing everybody. You only need one.
right. Right. You only need one. It's like, you know what? If that person doesn't like me, then okay, then I've avoided something there. I'm not going to force myself to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be with me.
Yeah,
You know?
or doesn't like me. And I
Yeah.
would highly encourage anyone listening to that coming from someone who's been in a relationship where the person really didn't like them, but you stayed there anyway. Don't do it. It's not
Yeah.
good.
Right. I'm just thinking about I remember there was one phrase, and when I heard myself say it, we were in the throes of a massive breakup, and trying to stay together, but knowing it wasn't working, but trying to stay there because we had invested so much time and energy, and it was and it was just that tug of war. I need this from you. Well, I need this from you, and so I recall in the midst of my tears and being upset,
Mm,
I recall saying, I am done with begging people to love me.
I love that.
And when I said that, it shocked me. Even I was like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But that was probably as brutally honest with myself
Hmm.
that I had ever allowed myself to be.
Wow.
That I was literally begging, doing things, jumping through hoops, going through the changes, minimizing myself
Mm,
was a form of begging somebody, please stay with me. I'll do whatever, I'll do anything. It's like, I'm
mm,
tired of begging people to love me. You either going to love me for who I am as I come, or you can keep it pushing.
mm.
I've been happily single ever since.
I think what you're talking about there, for me, I'm listening to that and saying, well, this is the boundary that you're setting. It's going, hey, this is who I am, and I think we need to. That you can't, if you're bending to what someone else wants all the time, it's not going to be happy for you. Um,
Yes.
it's just, and I know from my own experience, have been doing that, and not because when you're in a relationship with that kind of person, they don't just take one thing; they take that, then they move the
They take it
goalpost. You take
all.
another, and all of a
It's
sudden,
never enough.
yeah.
It's never enough. You can never do enough for someone who is so deficient.
Mm,
And that's one of the things that they are so deficient in their love bank
mm,
that and they're controlling, so they're trying to control you, and the way to do that is to constantly move that goalpost, to
yeah,
keep you striving
mm,
so that they feel like, oh, she really wants me. So that's how they're feeling love,
yeah,
by constantly making you strive, and then you're striving to meet this irrational imaginary goal of how much can I do to show that I love you. Apparently not enough. And then to when you when you stop that and
mhm,
say, no more, I'm not begging you to love me. Either you're going to love me because you love me and you're going to spend time with me and you're going to, do the things, you're going to go do Legos with me or go to a festival. If you're not doing that, then you don't love me.
mm,
You don't want to be with me the way you profess that you want to be with me.
yeah,
And that was mind blowing for me.
yeah.
I had never verbalized it. So,
I love that. It's about
yep.
coming back to being clear about who it is you are. What are your
Hmm.
boundaries? And
Yep.
it's hard to do anything if you don't know what you're starting with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you haven't until you have identified who you want to be
Mm,
as a person and what you need from someone else, you
mm,
can never clearly tell them what you want. So you're always going to be throwing things out there and hoping that they catch it.
mm,
It's like, yeah, I'm pretty clear. I'm not going to beg you to love me. Don't do anything you can't do long term, because
mm.
I spoil very easily. And I don't cook, I don't clean, and I don't catch innuendos. If you're not clear, you're not going to get an answer.
I like that. It sounds like, and we've talked for a while, when we're talking about compatibility and making compatibility work, it's I've for me, I've heard three things that really stood out. Was one is being clear about what it is who you are.
Mhm.
Two, what is it that you want? And three, being able to, when you then find that, being able to communicate clearly, and be clear about when when someone asks for water, what is it? What are the three things that the possible response?
What are the possibilities of water?
What did you from what were your key takeaways from this?
Is that three possibilities with
Mm,
every conversation.
yeah,
They're not speaking to you. Being clear, asking them what it is that they want from you. When
yeah,
you said that, what was it that you were hoping would happen?
mm,
And then saying, oh, well, if you're going that way, get some for me too. Not taking responsibility for something that a person just throws out into the atmosphere.
yeah,
Not being responsible for that. Being clear on where set boundaries. Being
mm,
clear on where your boundaries are.
yeah.
So
I love that. That's all.
those, I mean, we've had some really good nuggets come out of this
Yeah,
today, this
yeah.
morning. It's morning where you are.
It's nearly lunchtime. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's still morning.
So yeah,
Awesome.
but yeah, and all from compatibility. I enjoy just having just conversations like, let's talk about this, just throwing something out there. This is unscripted.
Mm.
So it's all hot off the press. So I will be taking copious notes when it comes out. I'll be taking copious notes on, oh, I said that. Oh, that was nice. And I said this and that was nice. So, you know.
Definitely. Yeah, there's so much in there. So, listeners, thank you very much and viewers, thank you for tuning in. It's been wonderful chatting with you. Chatting for you and for Dr. Carolyn. It's been amazing chatting with you as always. I really enjoy this, and we have a nice long distance relationship. I like it.
Absolutely. Yes. See, I told you I have a knack for getting into these long distance relationships. And you go away for a few weeks and then you come back and it's just like old times.
I love it. All right. We'll leave it there, listeners, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for being part of the Share.care community and helping people around the world prosper. You're creating a bigger pie for everyone to share. The more people contributing to the world being a better place, the better the world becomes for others and for you.